Welcome to Do-It-Yourself Irrigation's video, Irrigation Wiring. Be aware of how dangerous electricity is. Although we'll be working with low voltage, keep in mind the dangers with working with electricity. We'll start this video at the controller, specifically with the common wire. The common wire is exactly that. It's common to all the valves in the circuit. In most cases, you will wire your valves using one common or ground wire. As you can see in our line drawing, we've run a ground wire to our first valve, which in this case is the master valve. Then connecting to that same common wire, we run the common from our master valve to our zone 1 valve. Then from our zone 1 valve, we run our common to the last valve in this drawing, zone 2. Our common then terminates at our last zone in our system. Now we're ready to move on to the control wiring. The next terminal up from common is the MV or PS terminal. This stands for pump start or master valve. In our case, we'll be wiring a master valve. The master valve is wired just like every other valve in your system. As you can see in this line drawing, we've run a wire from our master valve terminal on the controller to the other wire on the master valve solenoid. This controller will send a signal to the master valve every time a zone or station valve is scheduled to open. Our next set of connections will be the station or zone control wiring. Every zone or station will have a dedicated control wire from a terminal on the controller to each individual valves. For instance, we'll run a wire from terminal 1 on the controller to the other wire on the zone or station 1 solenoid, depicted here in blue. And then from our zone 2 terminal on the controller to the other wire on the zone 2 solenoid valve, depicted here in green. Now we're ready to physically run the wires. We recommend you using a multi-strand wire from where the control will be mounted to the outside of the house. Because it comes in a nice compact jacket, it's easier to run through crawl spaces or into walls. Once we get to the outside, then we transfer from the multi-strand cable to single-strand cables to each of the valves using waterproof connectors. Changing over to single-strand wire allows you to send just one control wire to each valve. I like to use the white wire as our common wire. This common wire will be run to each one of the valves, then back to the common terminal on the controller. Then for each one of our zone control wires, I like to use a color. Once we make the connection at the valve, we'll want to use waterproof splices. In this case, we're using the 3M DBY kits. You simply screw on your wire nut as normal and then plunge the wire nut into the grease and then close the cap. Then continue this process for the rest of the valves in your system. This will conclude Do-It-Yourself Irrigation's video, Irrigation Control Wiring. And remember, if you want the job done right, do it yourself. Irrigation.